Choose one of them. Okay, I want you to ask yourself the same questions. Did you look at who posted it? Did you look at the contents of the photo, or maybe the number of likes or comments? Okay. So the number of likes and comments is called quantifiable social endorsement. And this is a new, it's not new, but it's social media has created this term, or studies studying social media has created this term because it's something that's super different than normal social interactions because it's quantifiable. Normal social interactions, it's not quantifiable, it's qualifiable because, okay. All right, did that make sense? Okay. So, how many people use Instagram? 72. Okay, Alessia, how many people use Instagram?
I thought you were going to like raise your hand if you have Instagram.
Okay.
So I jumped again.
Okay. It's okay. Okay, so 72% of US teens use Instagram, and that's a whole lot. So we should probably know what the effect of it is on our brains. So, in your opinion, does Instagram have a good or bad effect, a positive or negative effect on teenagers? This is a question to the audience.
Negative.
Okay. Negative? I see like mostly thumbs down. Like middle? Okay. Okay.
All the adults are very skeptical back here.
Okay.
Except Miss Torres.
Okay. So this leads us directly to our paper, The Power of the Like in Adolescence, Effects of Peer Influence on Neural and Behavioral Responses to Social Media. Or in simple terms, the effect of Instagram likes on teen minds. So the study looked at 34 teenagers, 18 female and 16 male. That's good because there's a gender balance. The study team created an internal social network which was comprised of participants' photos and publicly available Instagram photos. So each participant saw a different feed, and each feed consisted of 42 risky images, and that was marijuana, smoking, alcohol, and in their words, adolescents wearing skimpy clothing. And then 66 neutral images. Those are just typical images you'd see on Instagram, like pictures of friends, foods, and possessions, and then each participant saw 40 of their own images. So to continue, each photo was split into two different versions. One photo would have a high number of likes, and then one would have a low number of likes. Half of the participants saw the high number of likes, and half saw the low. A high number is considered 30 to 45 likes, and the low number is 0 to 15. And then each participant was put into an MRI machine and given 3D goggles. To mimic the experience of browsing Instagram on a smartphone. And the MRI is just gonna examine the activity in your brain. And this photo is a simulation of what the participants would have seen. And it's from the year 2014, so it's kind of old, but we have to keep in mind that the study was published in 2016, so relatively it's not that old. Okay.
I have a question, Nina.
Oh, yes.
They were seeing these images in the scanner, right?
Yes.
Now, were they being asked to do a task, or are they just looking at them passively?
Yeah, so they were asked to like an image or pass the image.
Okay, so they were liking or not liking?
Yes.
They liked.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, on to the results. So for the many likes photos, there were many areas of the brain that were activated, but only a few of them showed significant results. So the precuneus, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex were all activated, and all those parts of the brain are related to social cognition. And social cognition is basically just how people process and analyze information about social situations. So here you can see the precuneus over here, the hippocampus over here, and the prefrontal cortex over here. And then the other part of the brain that was activated was the inferior frontal gyrus, and that's related to imitation. So I'm assuming we all know what imitation means, and you can see that right here. Okay. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So for the participants' own photos, the the visual cortex had greater activity. So you can see that here because there's like a brighter yellow dot and there's more splotches in this area. And that means that they took greater care to examine the photo. So this was for their own photo. And then continuing with their own photo, the thalamus, putamen, body of caudate nucleus, nucleus accumbens, and brainstem were all activated, and that's centralized right in the red dot. So those are all related to reward learning and motivation. And reward learning is when a reward acquires an incentive value. So in this case, the reward would be the likes, and the participants wants to acquire the likes over and over in the future. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. So on to the risky images. So the top is the risky, the bottom is the neutral. And the bilateral prefrontal cortex and the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex are both activated, and those two parts of the brain are related to cognitive control. So that's decision making based on goals, and cognitive control has two different steps. So one is choosing the appropriate perceptual information to process, and the other is inhibiting the inappropriate response. So an example of this would be if you're hungry and then your roommate has a sandwich on her desk, but you don't eat the sandwich because that's an inappropriate response. Okay, does that make sense? So when the participants were examining these risky images and deciding whether to like it or not, they had less activity in the cognitive control areas. So what does that mean? Someone from the audience tell me. You're welcome. No? Alessia?
Well, it might be that they're not making. Well, it's kind of good because the cognitive control area would have to do with making a decision, and it doesn't say like what decision they actually make. But it is interesting that that area of decision making is.
So cognitive control is inhibiting the inappropriate response. So if there's less activity in the inhibition of inappropriate response, that means they're more likely to make the inappropriate response. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so for the future for experimentation, the study team itself said that they wanted to delve deeper into the nucleus accumbens response to risky images, because the nucleus accumbens has a lot of hype right now, for like lack of better terms, and there's a lot of information that's coming in about nucleus accumbens relating to like peer pressure and other things like that. So the participants in the study itself were not experienced with drugs or alcohol because they said that, and the study team thinks that if participants who are experienced with drugs or alcohol would have a more significant response in the nucleus accumbens. Yeah, okay. And then for me personally, I thought that for the future, they should delve deeper into whether the neural response is actually going to have a behavioral outcome. So like for the cognitive control, if there's less activity in their cognitive control circuits, does that mean that they're more likely to make a bad decision in real life? So peer pressure, is that like more likely to happen? And then also they should have a larger study size, because 34 participants is not enough to broaden it to all U.S. teams or something. So they need to do more studies to have a larger study size. And now, your thoughts on Instagram. Do you still think that, does your opinion stay the same of whether Instagram has a positive or negative influence? Did your opinion change? Does anyone? Yes? Does Instagram have a good or bad influence now? What do you think, based on the study? Okay. Well, personally, I was like indifferent before I read the study, because I knew there were like good aspects to Instagram and bad aspects, but actually, this is like funny, but after I read the study, I deleted Instagram for a week because I was like, this is not Yeah. And then a friend of mine gave me a quote that said, "Happiness is reality minus expectation." So,
Elon Musk is a friend of yours?
yes. One of my friends told me this quote, and I thought it directly related to my paper. So, but is expectations the number of likes, like getting a high number of likes? Do you expect that for yourself? And are you missing happiness because you're expecting these likes? And then 2 days ago, Twitter has announced that they're debating whether to delete the like button or not. And obviously that relates directly, directly because the likes, like if it's an unhealthy, I don't know the word, like thing in social media, does that mean that that it should be deleted from all social media platforms? So, thank you. Oh, any questions?
Well, I was just going to say that I feel like it goes beyond likes too. Like, obviously, this could be a potential negative effect, but there, I was recently talking to someone about how like the Instagram story feature is like what I feel like is the most negative about Instagram, because it gets you on it every single day, and you feel like you're missing stuff if you don't see it like every 24 hours.
And that's like Snapchat.
So I feel like just deleting the like portion won't like erase all of the negativity about Instagram.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a step, but there's like other aspects.
Yes.
Did you reload Instagram?
Did I what?
Did you reload Instagram?
Yeah. I may have. But any other questions? Yes.
So in teens, the prefrontal cortex is less developed than in adults. What implications do you feel this study has for teens then versus adults in the use of
Well, teens are like gonna be influenced, I think, more than adults, right? And the fact that it's developing, I don't know if there's a correlation between the fact that they're expecting, they have expectations for themselves and then their brain is gonna develop differently, but for adults, maybe their response would have been different because they have a developed prefrontal cortex. I'm not sure though, but yeah. Any other?
And their immaturity probably shows in the fact that they're measuring themselves using the likes.
Yeah, quantifiable social endorsement.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we're good?